I'm not being a wet blanket. I promise. Camp is exciting, but let's temper it a little bit. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner _ follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button, man. Turn notifications on. Leave a review if you want. You know I'm just happy that you're here. And exciting times are here. Okay. Exciting times. And I kind of want to sit everybody around the campfire and just maybe say something that you don't want to hear. But it's going to be a nuance, not a main character of today's show. One thing that will be a main character in the final segment is, I feel like I have to do this once every 2 months or so. Put some respect on Budda Baker's name. Kyler Murray, with some video that's come out of camp, seen some patterns. Some good, some and mostly good. But, be excited, but temper it. And I'll explain what I mean. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So camp is in full swing. It's exciting. It's fun. It's new. And the momentum that Jonathan Gannon reportedly has been studying with him and his coaching counterparts is there. It's prevalent. It's palpable. And that's something that's fun because this is just the beginning, obviously, the first couple steps. This is the last time we've seen them play football since week 18. You had the mandatory or the voluntary mini camps, things like that, rookie mini camps. You've seen Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field catch a pass from Kyler Murray, but not like this. They're still not in pads, but this is step one. Like the true bona fide step one in training camp since Matt Prater missed 2 field goals against Seattle that awarded the Arizona Cardinals Marvin Harrison Jr. But with that, the momentum that started at the end of last season when Kyler Murray came back, Chicago, Philly, when they got the win, etc. It was like, okay, it feels different. The offense is different naturally. There's not a whole lot of talent, but the offensive line's fine. James Conner looked really good last year. Trey McBride looked really good. It really emerged as a fringe top 10 tight end, and you hope that he will crack the top 5 potentially this year. But the momentum was there, even though they lost in week 18. And that, coupled with a whole bunch of excitement, because of the draft, because there's been no football, and, because of some of the free agent signings that the Cardinals have made, Kyler Murray healthy, everything all wrapped into one present, everybody is so excited about every little thing that happens at camp. I just try to be the voice of reason and not just go full whatever a media person can do, fanboy, I don't know. It's just, yes, it's fantastic seeing Kyler Murray throw the ball with some defense on him to Marvin Harrison Jr. in full stride. Trey McBride. Greg Dortch made a great catch along the sideline yesterday. Michael Wilson made an acrobatic catch with a greatly thrown ball by Kyler Murray. All of those things have happened. You see Max Melton. You see, Garrett Williams, who are really starting to solidify, but you're seeing drills, okay? One of the biggest things that I don't really understand, aside from it being obviously a necessity, it being on the NFL calendar, it being everything, it's your first real meet and greet with offense, defense, with whatever year version of that team it is. People holding massive amounts of weight in what you see in camp, one way or another, I think is somewhat of a fool's errand. Now, the one thing that I've said that I'll continue to say is like the only thing you don't want to see, and actually JJ Watt tweeted about this earlier this morning, one thing you don't want to see is the oh-nos. Oh no, the rookie looks lost. oh no, the quarterback's thrown 8 interceptions. And while throw 1, throw 2, you're trying new things, you're trying new routes, new players potentially, everything like that. It's like, yeah, it's gonna happen. It's mistakes. It's camp. It's like you don't hold weight in either side, aside from a player who just does not belong on an NFL field, like immediately, even before they put pads on. It's like, oh no, that doesn't happen often, but it happens. So all of these things are exemplary compared to what we witnessed, in years past, especially, even with camp, there wasn't that much excitement. It was like with Cliff Kingsbury, it was just, Greg Dortch. He was the guy, Antonio Hamilton, star of camp. It's like, who cares? Rarely does a fun camp story actually translate to anything when football matters. But the story around camp is this is a new team. This is a new organization. They've got new rules, new guidelines, new preparation tactics. And that's the story. It's not so much, Marvin Harrison Jr. caught a pass running across the middle. Oh, all pro. It's like, chill out, man. Because what that does is that puts unnecessary pressure on a team that is probably only going to win 7 or 8 games this year. Now, this was a Super Bowl year for the Cardinals. Maybe what we're looking at in 2025, those aspirations, we're having a different conversation. This is still a team that's not complete yet. And while no NFL team is truly complete ever, what the Cardinals have on defense is not much. Very little proven talent on defense. Very young players in the wide receiver room who are going to be, you'd expect, wide receiver 1 and 2 in Marvin Harrison Jr. his rookie year and Michael Wilson his second year. And sure, you've got veterans. Greg Dortch is now a veteran. Zay Jones has been around for a long time. But there's a lot of unknowns that can be marred by people getting so excited about, football. This is their year. And sure, think all you like, enjoy it. Okay, I'm not saying, camp is worthless and blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying the last thing the Cardinals can do is have more pressure on them to produce at a level that would be jumping out of their own shoes compared to the roster that they have going into the season on top of the schedule that they have. Enjoy it. Take it for what it's worth. It's not worth a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. And it's fun, man. I'm smiling watching, these videos that are like, Marvin Harrison Jr. It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. Michael Wilson, great catch. It's going to be fun. Greg Dortch, great back shoulder turning towards the sideline, body control. Great catch. Trey McBride, contested with 3 guys around him. Great catch. Sure. It's camp. It's fun to watch. Chill. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Kyler Murray. Some patterns that I've seen from the video out of camp. Obviously, small sample size. Obviously, new personnel everywhere. Some good, some not. And again, taking with a grain of salt. But unlike the rookies, you've seen Kyler Murray play in an NFL game. So it's a little bit different when you're looking at things happen that have happened in games, namely the things that aren't so great. I'll discuss that next. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked on Cardinals is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash, man. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. So again, I'm not saying don't enjoy football and don't enjoy your favorite team on the field for the first few days of camp with a roster that is more exciting than – when was the last time there was an offense that was this exciting? I guess 2016. Nobody really saw Chris Johnson doing that. He was leading the league in rushing before he got hurt. And then David Johnson coming out of the small school that he came out of, and just kind of taking over. And then no risk and no biscuit, John Brown, Jerron Brown, J.J. Nelson, Britton Golden. It wasn't like a who's who of wide receivers. BG's my boy, though. Larry Fitzgerald, obviously. But, no real tight end help because Cardinals never really had tight ends. And then Carson Palmer just resurrected his career like Kurt Warner did. It was fun, but it was different. I would say that the Cardinals have more talent on offense now than they did then, even with Larry Fitzgerald there. So it's fun. It's exciting. It's the new wave. The skill position players are young, aside from James Conner, but all there are possibilities and opportunities to pivot this team into a positive trajectory for years to come. So I've been preaching all offseason. And one way to ruin that excitement is to expect too much too soon. Take it for what it is, face value, no pads, exciting, yes, impactful, no. Because we got to see it on an NFL field. We're not even looking at preseason yet. Kyler Murray, a little bit different. A little bit different lens for him because he's played upwards of 100 games, not yet in the NFL, but he's played a lot of NFL games. And the patterns that I've seen from Kyler Murray out of the small sample size from camp for the first couple days. One, he is back to full strength with his legs. It's obvious. I think he was towards the end of last year when he came back. But, there still has – these people are still human beings, man. There's got to be some, loosey-goosey in your stomach after tearing your ACL and then getting hit for the first time. And he figured it out. He was very, very much Kyler Murray towards the end, especially the Philly game, even though their defense was terrible. But what we saw during these camps was his footwork is when he's not rushed, he has some of the best footwork in the NFL. And he rushes himself at times. I didn't see that, but that's what we've seen over the course of his career here. But his ability to maneuver inside the pocket is just magic. It's magic. And again, all of this, grain of salt compared to an actual NFL game, like I mentioned last segment. But again, seeing that reinforced after tearing his ACL and coming back, this is kind of it's a rejuvenation project for Kyler Murray where you just want to see him back to, his tiptoes from 2021. And you're starting to see that. That's a pattern. That's a good pattern. Number one. Number two, one thing that seems to be the case is he knows where to put the ball when he's throwing it to Greg Dortch and Trey McBride. He's very, very, and it's not always because if you've got two guys on him, which Trey McBride's going to have a good portion of the season, I would assume, depending on scheme, being able to put the ball where only Trey McBride can get it, that's never going to look like a smooth pass and catch. It's always going to be the receiver contorting his body to that one spot where the ball can be caught. So looking at, when you watch initially, and there's a couple, Donnie Druin does a great job. There's a bunch of Tyler Drake does a great job. When you watch the video at face value, it's like, whoa, that was Kyler Murray missed the spot on that one. There were a couple of those. And then you watch him again, and it's like, oh, that's the only place you can throw the ball where the receiver or tight end can catch it. And I know Bill Brocky's my luck. I didn't want to give him credit for anything because no, I'm only kidding. Kyler Murray throwing the ball to Greg Dortch and Trey McBride is now at that level that I don't think he ever got to with DeAndre Hopkins. It was an arranged marriage. I talked about that earlier this week. That is a great pattern where you've done the reps, the spots, how that player can contort his body and what the catch radius is to be able to put it in spots where defenders can't get to. And there were a couple throws. Marvin Harrison Jr. made a one-handed catch. It's great. Kyler Murray's patterns he's still got a cannon. He's great. He's great behind the line of scrimmage, especially, even when he does, obviously when he gets out of the pocket, he can make moves on the run. And that's what he's done. So the patterns are there from what we've seen when he was healthy before he tore his ACL. The one for me that, again, grain of salt in the grand scheme of things, but this is something that we've seen over the course of Kyler Murray's career, is the bad overthrow that turns into an interception in the middle of the field. Like wild overthrow. Like 3 feet above the wide receiver or tight end that's running the crossing pattern. Or the sit-down pattern, whatever it is. We saw this with Trey McBride, issues with Trey McBride last year when Kyler Murray came back. It's like getting on the same page is one thing, especially when you're rusty, especially when you haven't had a whole lot of reps with a rookie tight end, second-year tight end. But he had one of those. Garrett Williams almost picked off. And again, I'm going to continue to reiterate. Camp, not a big deal. So my comments don't blow up. Camp, not a big deal. And we've seen that myriad times over the course of his real NFL game career. One was against San Francisco last year. Wildly overthrown ball in the middle of the field, which is recipe for interception. That pattern is something that Drew Petzing and he are going to need to work on. Because one thing, just like hubris or over expecting based upon, routes run before pads are even put on, is mental or physical errors made by the offense this season. The defense is already so severely undermanned talent-wise, or maybe it's more this, severely undermanned with proven NFL talent as compared to their counterparty teams, that the offense cannot make it even more difficult for the defense in 2024. And those passes by Kyler Murray, he throws 10 a year, maybe. 5 get intercepted, 6 get intercepted, something like that. And you just know. If you've watched, you know. I think Kyler Murray's game is fantastic. That is one of the things that is so frustrating that can't happen in 2024. So bottom line, Cardinals offense cannot put the defense in a worse situation than they already are. And worse situation isn't necessarily fair, but in a more precarious situation than they already are. They've got to be the champions for the defense and allow the team as a whole to overcome the defense probably being a year away. So seeing Kyler Murray's overthrow for potential interception during camp, again, while it's camp and it's not a big deal, we've seen it in games, and it's the same exact throw that we've seen in games that turn into interceptions. And that's got to be, at a minimum, in 2024. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. I don't understand why respecting Budda Baker and seeing the big picture isn't something that everybody has. I don't understand why I'm one of the few that thinks he needs to retire an Arizona Cardinal. I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't really looking for jobs right now, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay. So again, not trying to be a wet blanket during this show. If you've been an everydayer, if you've listened for a long time, and if you haven't, and this is maybe your first listen, thank you. I'm over the moon excited about what's going to happen for 2024. Being positive and hedging your expectations and optimism for win-losses in 2024, I think is the most palatable road to take throughout this. Now, again, the Cardinals can go absolutely bonkers and start 5-1, and it doesn't matter what the defense are they're playing. This offense is so good, and the defense is more ready than what it looks like on paper with all the question marks of young guys who haven't proven themselves in the NFL yet. Cool. I'm not saying that they're 100% not going to make the playoffs in 2024 by any stretch. And I'm also saying there's a lot of young guys in very, very important positions who haven't played an NFL game yet. So seeing what we're seeing in camp is fun, it's exciting, it's new. Obviously, there's a level up of not only talent, but preparation, cohesion, culture, all of it. It's just snowballing from last year, but now you got more talent and you got a fresh start in a new season and a healthy Kyler Murray. Just saying, pump it a little bit. Pump the brakes, be excited, and also see the big picture. The big picture for me when it comes to Budda Baker is you extend him after this season. And I don't understand why people don't get that. We're in a situation now with Budda Baker where he's not going to garner top safety money anywhere. So why? I know they drafted Adrian Taylor Demerson, okay, to supplant Budda Baker at some point. But just because that happened, just because the Cardinals drafted Trey Benson, doesn't mean they're ready to move off of the best player they've got at that position just because he's a few years older. What I have to continue reminding people is Budda Baker has had to cover for zero cornerback talent, a pass rush that didn't exist, and interior defense and off-ball linebackers didn't know how to play their position. That's what his role has been for the last 3 or 4 years. They haven't had good corners. Aside from Patrick Peterson, since 2000, 2002, whatever it is. Whenever Patrick Peterson got drafted, 2007, whatever it is. You understand that? Budda Baker hasn't been able to play his traditional role, and his traditional role is a little bit different. He's all over the defensive side of the ball. But imagine what will happen when he's got talent in the secondary, aside from him and Jalen Thompson. Imagine what happens when a pass rush actually exists, when you've got an off-ball linebacker like Kazir White who can actually play the position. Imagine how effective Budda Baker is going to be. You don't need him to be all pro to extend him. And this isn't just a legacy play where he's paid his dues, so you've got to pay him. That's not this. It shows loyalty in an NFL that is devoid of it. You can rewrite everything if you're Michael Bidwell. And Budda Baker's, put it this way, just like when people were talking about the Cardinals trading Kyler Murray, you know how many teams would be in the DMs of the Cardinals if Kyler Murray was up to be moved? 20? Doesn't that tell you something? If Budda Baker walks, he will be the top free agent on the market next year on the defensive side of the ball. Because it's not a quote-unquote premium position, it's not going to be a $30 million a year contract. And I can guarantee, and I've said this, and I know that Brian A. on Twitter, this is for you. It's your fault. I'm doing this segment. I say that lovingly. And I've said this for 3 years. He'll probably play 1 year in Seattle because Pacific Northwest went to Washington. Like, it just makes sense. But you can, by all accounts, play 90% of your snaps with one team, and I call that retiring with the team. If you want to go home at the end of the year, that's completely different than letting him walk after this season. It's going to be him. It's going to be James Conner. They should both get extensions. There's money for them. And more importantly, for both of them, they're not going to garner top-tier money, number one, for either of their positions. And number two, they've still been highly effective. Budda Baker's quantifiables are hard to do. Not a big interception guy, not a big sack guy. But use your eyes, and you see how important Budda Baker is to this team. James Conner, more quantifiable. He's a running back. Both of these guys should get extensions after the season. And I don't understand why the conversation is, age. I'm assuming they're going to move off from him after this year. Why? Just because that's what everybody's done? That's just the obvious choice when two of the most important players in the last decade for this team hit a certain age. It's like, thank you for your service. Don't need you anymore. That is stupid, in my opinion. Especially if they're as effective as they've been over the last couple of years. And on top of that, they won't need to carry the weight anymore. Imagine what 70% of James Conner, what he was the last 2 years, could be for the next 3. Imagine what 70% of Budda Baker was compared to at his peak, could be with a competent defense under Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rallis. They don't have to be Pro Bowlers to re-sign them. And that's why I'm frustrated that it's just, they'll move off them. Too much money. First of all, it's not your money. Second of all, they're going to have over $90 million plus to spend next offseason. I think you can find a little cheese for the guys who have built this culture and who have stayed. Budda Baker could have been out. Yes, he requested a trade last offseason. Shocker that a player who knows it's going to be a crap box year for that team wants all the money guaranteed. He deserves it. It's a thank you. It's a far cry from Michael Bidwell paying Larry Fitzgerald $11 million a year when he was 40% of what he was at his prime. That's not this. Don't get me started on why I think Larry Fitzgerald stayed with the Cardinals for so long. It's because he got paid triple what he would have got paid anywhere else. It's a good business move. This isn't that. Put some respect on Budda Baker's name. Alex Lindsay, Locked On Cardinals. Remember, I always respect you. Without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you on Monday.